Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. My co host Robin and I take great joy and immense pleasure in featuring different women each week to showcase their journey, to showcase their impact, and how they are investing in other women and how other women have invested in them. Because at the end of the day, life is not a journey any of us take alone. It's going to take a lot of other hands connected to hearts and minds to make each journey possible. And how we do that successfully, how we learn from it, how we grow through it, and how we pay it forward, all of it is part of living a whole life. And today we are going to be talking about the importance of sitting in our own reality, making sense of that, and being able to show up for ourselves and owning our journey and our impact. And from that place of awareness and ownership, how do we show up for us and those around us? And how do we leave our mark at the end of this very transient, very short journey we call life? Take it away, Robin.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cass. And we are thrilled today to have Michelle Stiffler with us. And she hails from Mesa, Arizona. And I learned about her, as I have many of our guests, from the small magazine Guideposts. And that magazine talked about how Michelle had been helping women in crisis and also helping women who had been in prison make re-entry into society. And I was so moved and so touched and inspired by her story that I hunted her down on the internet and invited her to be our guest. And so I know that you're doing other things now, but to begin with, I would love to hear how you got involved in this kind of somewhat unusual experience working with women who'd been in prison, women in crisis, and how that emerged and what motivated you toward that.
Thank you, Robin. I'm glad you hunted me down. It was a fun surprise, and it was just a joy to join you guys today. So thank you. Nonprofit work kind of was something I always thought that I would investigate at some point in my life. I was a teen mom, and there is often this expectation that if you've been helped in some way, then of course you're going to like give it back, pay it forward, and work with people. And so we had recently moved here to Arizona, and my husband asked me, when are you going to find a nonprofit, like get back into some nonprofit stuff? I had done it very briefly a couple of times working with women where we had lived previously. And we were coming to a point in our lives where, all of the kids were in school. I was needed a little bit less. And it was one of those, I'll put it on the back burner of my mind and then I'll find a place and whenever that is. It ended up happening later that week. And I found this center. And when I went, the work that they were doing was just so special. And so I want to say they were allowing people to kind of work as like show up as they were. So if you were good at something, they would kind of put you to work, and didn't feel extremely programmed. And so I was able to come in there. I started as the receptionist, meeting the women, very quickly became a teacher and then a mentor after that. And I was there for 8 years, and it just completely transformative for myself. And just some of the stories that I heard, some of the women that I met, it will have an impact on me for the rest of my life.
That is very powerful, not just for the lives you've impacted, but how you started in one place and found yourself through that journey to see an aspect of you probably never even contemplated, right? And so through that self-discovery, you've learned a lot of things. How are you using that self-discovery in your life today?
Mm.
And what is the impact you're creating for you and those around you, because you don't take this journey and not transform yourself.
That is very true. I ended up leaving the center where I was working. We were at a point of immense growth. I was writing the grants and on top of doing our trauma-informed coordination and working with the women. And it was clear to me, and these are hard decisions that we have to make, but it was clear to me that I was not ready to move into full-time work. And that was really what they needed from somebody in my role. And so I made the decision to leave, which was a beautiful thing because I thought it was for one reason. And then once I had kind of that space and time to really think, I realized that where my heart had landed is that I wanted to do more work with women in the somatic space and in the fitness space, but not the unhealthy fitness space, if you know what I'm saying. I do believe in women being strong. I do believe in women knowing how to breathe and how to access some of those like de-stressing ways that are very accessible to all of us. But that's what I wanted to do. And I had been in the fitness space already for many years. I was a bar instructor. So it was really a matter of getting more certifications and learning, and finding out how I could kind of blend trauma-informed work, somatic work, fitness work, and incorporate a faith element if that was what women were looking for. And so it began this journey of getting certified as a yoga instructor, certified personal trainer. I ended up getting a certification in somatic EMDR. And, you know, I'm already looking at what are the certifications that I'd like to add for next year, like what's the most beneficial, not just for the sake of learning. And so now I get to work with women in the somatic and fitness space. And guess what? There are women that have a lot of like hurts and everything, even in a gym, even in a different socioeconomic space. And so I enjoy, I think sometimes getting to surprise women in that way when they find out that maybe it doesn't just have to be about building muscle or about getting stronger, but that I care also about who they are on the inside and strengthening that emotional and mental connection to themselves.
That is really, really beautiful and so important because there is a profound impact between trauma and what is going on with our physical body. Sometimes we think trauma is all just lodged mentally, emotionally, but a lot of trauma stays make that, although obviously this can relate to anyone. How have you helped women come to that realization? Oh, this stuff going on with my body is connected to stuff going on with trauma that happened to me. And how can I, look into that in a way that it feels safe and not re-traumatizing? And then I'm kind of throwing a lot at you, but also accessing post-traumatic growth, which is a thing that's been studied, and not just stay stuck in post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Mm-hmm. That is a lot of questions, but we can answer them all. I think I think when women find out that they're allowed to have what we would consider a negative emotion about something, whether it be anger, extreme grief, um, frustration, that why in the world does this still bother me? It shouldn't bother me anymore. It's been this much time. Sometimes that's something that we believe. Sometimes we've been told that. Um, when women find out that they're allowed to feel that way and that that would be the normal way to feel because of what happened to them, that's very freeing in itself. And I think that can open the door to becoming curious about, let's find out some of the ways that this experience, this negative, traumatic experience, let's find out how this shut me down in ways that are also very sad, to silence a part of myself that's powerful or that has something to give to other people. That's an important discovery in itself. And the more I think we connect with, no, this does feel like my more authentic self. Like when I'm being this person that feels like me, I feel the most alive. I think it makes us hungry to keep doing the work. Even as I work with people, they'll come to you, and a lot of times, when I get a client, they're coming to me for something specific. It's I have to lose this weight, or I have to build this muscle. And then the longer that we do the work and the better they start to feel, and the more they're gaining this confidence, because it's like, oh, I didn't know I was capable of doing this. um you can see just even that mental shift where they begin thinking, I'm a little more interested in who I am on the inside, and maybe a little less interested in who I am on the outside, or who everybody thinks that I am on the outside. And that's an exciting feeling. And now I've forgotten what the other part of your question was. Remind me, Robin.
It was talking about, um, I was so interested in listening to your answer. I think I might have forgotten the question myself, but it was talking about making the connection between, realizing what this trauma. Oh, yes, I remember now. Post-traumatic growth.
Yes, good.
Yeah. So the notion of post-traumatic growth.
And the post-traumatic growth is kind of where you get to a point. It's never, I'm so glad that that happened to me, because then I could know these things about myself. But where you've come to this point of integration, and you accept that, okay, this did happen. Maybe I'm not able to say that was supposed to happen, but I also don't feel like I have to figure out a way to have eliminated that. I think sometimes there can be a lot of preoccupation with, well, if this one thing hadn't happened, then, I could be this. Um, and so being able to accept the experience, and then being able to discover the strengths that have developed in yourself because of that experience, and how valuable a lot of times those strengths are, because you did go through suffering. Suffering is going to be part of the human experience until we're gone. And so how will we offer hope to other people when they're suffering as well? And so that, I think that's a part of the post-traumatic growth. Being able to dream again. We shut off our dreams when we've experienced something and we don't think that things could get better. um, Being able to hope again, being able to endure tough experiences another time through, and looking for ways to move through that, maybe healthier, whether that mean that you go ahead and grieve this time, go ahead and be angry this time, speak up for yourself this time, and move forward in a way that looks different maybe from the first time.
That is very, very powerful and insightful. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. What is coming up for me as you're talking is a twofold question. One, I can see your desire to go and get credentialed and get all of these, what I call pedigree, in order to feel like now you are ready. So something in you is pushing you to go and get those credentials in order to grow and grow into who you fully want to be. And then in that pursuit of growth, you're also combining the East and the West. You're talking about yoga, you're talking about breath work. And yoga and breath work and meditation is not what we in the East do, it's who we are. And so you're combining who a person as a being should be, and then how do they do what they do? You're combining the two. What's propelling you to combine the two and go after this in this particular way?
I would say, and this was something I didn't know about myself until the last 10 years, I kind of have a scientist mindset. So I'm very fascinated by, well, maybe this will work. I'm not extremely afraid to try something and let it, have minimal results, or find out that it was a little bit of a flop. Mostly because I'm very curious to find out if it does work. So when it comes to some of these credentials and being able to add them, I mean, my goodness, if I wanted to, I could do credentials like back to back to back. And there are a lot of good programs out there. I'm very discerning about, is this really going to be an asset to some of the problems that I encounter when I'm working with people? Or what about this particular credential is a little bit different that will allow me to bring in some of the other things that I know and maybe in a more organized way. So it's been a couple of months in between my credentials because I don't want to just like come running in like I need everything, because I don't need everything. I think that we can be very effective with some of the low hanging fruit and some of the basics. And I think that we can spend a lot of time learning because it keeps us from maybe just doing some of the work. So we could learn forever and not really learn how to apply it. So I'm careful to get my credentials and choose them wisely so that my time and my resources are spent the best possible. And so that what I'm offering people, I feel is a little more broad and multifaceted.
Beautiful. I'm really curious to know more about some of the challenges that you faced in in your career path, making the transition from one career to another, and also in working with women. Is there the range of women that you've worked with, is there a commonality amongst them as far as the core of their suffering and and how you've been able to help them overcome that?
There is a commonality, and I can't say that I could put it into a really wonderful sentence for you, sadly. I think women often question themselves. It doesn't matter the background, if you had really fabulous parents, if you were really smart, if you weren't. I think that women do question themselves often. They have a lot of self-doubts. I see that in any space that I'm in. I see that in myself. Um, and I think that at the end of the day, women want to be understood. It doesn't mean somebody has to say, I know exactly what that experience was like. The exact same thing happened to me. But they want to feel like they were heard, like they were seen, and that people say, I understand why you are the way that you are. Like, knowing what you've been through or knowing what your life is like, that tells me a little bit more about yourself. And I'm good with you being who you are. I think every woman wants to hear that people appreciate them for who they are, and that there isn't a long list of here are all the things that I wish you could change. Because we usually already have that list for ourselves. And so it's really lovely when somebody else doesn't have that list. They're just comfortable with us being in that space.
That is amazing to hear. Thank you so much, Michelle. As we always say, time flies. And before we move any further, I want us to take a moment and give you the opportunity to share with our audience where they can find you, how they can get a hold of you, and then also any closing thoughts. If you had words of wisdom or closing thoughts for the women who are part of our community, what do you want them to take away from this conversation?
Good. I'll start with where people can reach me. My somatic work is all at sinceritymethod.com. So if you're interested in that work, you can find me there. I'm on Instagram as well. My writing work is at One More Truth, and that's onemoretruth.com, or you can find me at Substack. I would welcome anybody to email me. My email is Michelle, it's 2 L's, K, just the initial K, and Stiffler, it's 2 F's, at gmail.com. And I would be happy to connect with anybody who wants to reach out. I think as far as parting words, what I say the most often, and it feels like the message that I'm sharing the most often, is that there's no perfect way to heal, and there's no quick way to heal. There's no perfect way to become healthy. and start doing the things exercise related, nutrition related that you know are going to be good for you. There are a lot of people out there who want to tell you that there's an optimized way to do everything, healing, fitness, all of it. Um, and what they're trying to sell you is a process that's quick and fast instead of telling you that a lot of times healing from something is going to be slow. I think that's the message that makes everybody feel maybe not the most comforted, but it is comforting from the perspective of then we don't wonder, well, what's wrong with me if everybody else is getting over everything so quickly? What's wrong with me, or why is this not happening so quickly for me? So go easy on yourself, allow things to take time, and start with one thing. Make things as simple as possible. Start with one good habit and get used to that one good habit, and then add another instead of trying to go into all the things at once, especially as January comes around. Um, you know, keep things as achievable as possible so that there's that long-term sustainability, whatever it is.
Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been an absolutely timely and deeply meaningful conversation, and a point of reference for all of us. We're headed to Thanksgiving, we're headed to Christmas, and the New Year's is around the corner. And so these are things that are on all our minds, and especially women. We focus most of our lives towards taking care of everybody else. And you have taken today to remind us that we need to invest in us and take care of ourselves too. And for that message and that nugget of wisdom, we are very grateful. Robin and I have been thrilled to have this conversation with you. And thank you for sharing this with our audience. And to our audience out there, you heard the closing thoughts from Michelle. Take the time. You don't need to accomplish all of it at once. As they say in my part of the world, life is like eating an elephant one bite at a time. And decide how you're going to proceed. And you have an entire lifetime ahead of you, but start today. Start today, take baby steps. You don't need to see the ultimate destination. As long as you can see the next step, take it. And every step you take, the path is going to open up. And just move forward, because guess what? In the end, you owe it to yourself to go and live your best life as your best version. And that is what Women Investing in Women is all about. So go out there and invest in yourself and shine as bright as you were intended to.